Hey y'all, it's Jennifer. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am coming to you with a book haul, and I would also say this is kind of an end of year TBR. I was thinking the other day, oh gee, I should do like the end of the year book tag and talk about all of the books that I want to read before the end of the year. And then I looked at my video schedule. I looked at how many videos I had pre-filmed. And then I thought about it and I said, that really would not go up until towards the end of the month. It's really shocking to me how fast November has flown by. But I have recently picked up some books. I feel like it's very eclectic as always, but I have done very well this year. One of my goals this year was to not haul nearly so much. And I do feel like I really achieved that. I think the last time that I posted a book haul was maybe at the end of the summer. And I think I've really only posted one other book haul than that. So I feel pretty good about this, and this is a manageable stack. So let's go on and get started. We have some classics here. We have some literary fiction. We have some fantasy. We're just kind of all over the board. So the first ones that I want to start with are the books that I picked up in Italy. I semi-hauled these in a bookshop with me video that I filmed while I was in Rome. So I got all of these books while in Rome. The first of these is The Italian Journey by Goethe, which is a series of letters. Basically, this is just a series of his writings that he wrote across, I think, many years and technically many trips that he took to Italy. And I just picked this up because it actually did touch on Sicily, and specifically it touched on Taormina, which is where I stayed when I went to Sicily. So I was really excited to find a book that even mentioned that. And when I was in Taormina, you can visit this ancient Greek theater that they have. And there's one of the areas, like one of the lookouts, is actually called Goethe's Lookout. So I think it's safe to assume that Goethe probably went there. I fully intended while in Italy to pick this up and at least get started on this. 100% I haven't. So this is one that is, I'm going to say, possibly just not really a high priority. I definitely don't feel the need to get to this one by the end of the year the way that I do some of these others. And I feel like this is going to be a book that's good just to dip in and out of. So I'm excited by this. It does kind of feel pertinent to me to pick it up this month since it is Nonfiction November. And I think this will be probably really beautifully written, as most things by Goethe were. So I am intrigued by this, and I was really excited to find it. I also picked up The Garden of the Finzi-Continis, which is a book that has been on my wish list for quite some time. I constantly have a list going of Italian books and books that I want to get in Italy. And this one has been there for a long time. It's come highly recommended by a lot of Italian subscribers. The only thing that worried me about this, when I picked this up, I was shocked to see that it says here on the cover that it's a book in a series. But I've often heard this just talked about by itself. So I don't necessarily think I need to read the other books in the series to understand this one, but this is kind of about World War II. So I'm really excited about this. I think it's probably going to be a good read. I have found in the past couple of years that I actually can really enjoy a modern classic, and that is something that never used to intrigue me. In fact, I used to think that I probably would not really care for most modern classics. And last year in particular, I really fell in love with some. So I'm really excited about this. I'm intrigued by this one. And this definitely is a high priority for me. This is definitely on my end of year TBR. A really fantastic resource that I found in the museum bookshop at Trajan's Marketplace is Latin Literature and Anthology. This really scans the long period of time of the Roman Empire and also of the Republic. And so it's got selections from Latin literature across basically 1,000 years. I thought this would be great to have on hand to try some authors that I had never read before and see if I like them. For example, Statius, I actually have never read, and I think there are a few things from him included here. I think this will be a great way to kind of taste test some authors. I also was really excited to see things that I had read were included in here that I didn't have copies of elsewhere. So this was just a really exciting find to me, and I think it's got a lot of different things here. I think this is going to be a really valuable resource to me in years to come. So this is definitely not a book I see myself reading front to back. This is just going to be something that I dip in and out of, but I'm really, really excited by this. I did not know until I saw this in the bookstore. I had no idea that Penguin published a volume like this at all. I know they have other anthologies out there, but this was really exciting to me because it includes poetry, it includes history, it really just includes a whole lot. And I tend to really like Roman literature above Greek, so I was just really excited to see this at all. So I am really intrigued by this, but I'm also just in general really excited to have this on my shelf. I'm always looking for things to add to kind of my reference shelf, and I think this is going to be a great one. Last but not least of the books that I picked up in Italy, specifically in Rome, is a book that I actually have started reading, so I'm proud of myself. And that is Caravaggio, A Life Sacred and Profane. And I picked this up basically because I had been reading a historical fiction about Artemisia Gentileschi, and I did not realize that she was ever exposed to Caravaggio as a person. She apparently knew him as a child, and that historical fiction painted Caravaggio in a very interesting light. And I realized from that I probably didn't know that much about him. And I have really only made it through the introduction in the first chapter here, and I'm already blown away at the amount of things that I did not know about him. It seems like he's kind of an unhinged historical figure, and those tend to be my favorites, so I'm kind of shocked that I've made it this far in life without any kind of knowledge of him. But I am really excited about this. I love these kind of penguin editions of nonfiction because they often include illustrations, which I think are just absolutely wonderful. They're full color illustrations, and I have a few of these in this line, and I just really, really like them. So I am excited to move forward with this. I think this is just going to be the nonfiction that I have on the go for the next few months. I always have a nonfiction that I'm reading, but it typically takes me a long time to get through, and I often forget about them when it comes to wrapping them up. I often don't remember to ever list on Goodreads that I'm reading them. And then because I didn't put them on Goodreads, I kind of forget about them. And so I don't wrap them up anywhere, and I'm trying to be better about that. But I hope that I can get through this relatively quickly. Maybe by the end of the year, I'll have this one finished, but I definitely wanted to pick this up during Nonfiction November. Now, when I show you this next book, you're going to laugh at me. And that is A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber. And you're probably laughing because you know I have yet to read the second book in this trilogy. I know, but I was really waiting for this one to come out because when I started reading the second book in the trilogy at the beginning of this year, I was completely lost. I had completely forgotten nearly everything about the first book, and I just thought, it's probably for the best if I wait until the third one comes out. And this has been really interesting to watch people's reaction to this book because I have very rarely seen anyone say anything positive about it. So I am going into this very skeptical, but I need to reread the first book and read the second to move into this one. But this is an incredibly high priority for me, not just because Once Upon a Broken Heart, which was the first book in this trilogy, was one of my favorite books of 2021, but it's also because to me, this is an interesting fantasy world to be reading in the wintertime. There's something very sugar plum fairy about it. And so I think it's just kind of ideal to be reading in the Christmas season. So these are very high priorities for me. If you have never read this series and you don't know what it's about, it's a very, very cute fantasy romance, in my opinion. It's about our main character, Evangeline, whose heart was broken, and so she kind of makes a deal with, let's say, the god of heartbreak, and things really kick off from there. But basically, I think most of us love this series because of how charming the world is, and just in general, how easy it is to see. I love Stephanie Garber. I think she is truly charming. I really do think charming is just the word for her writing. And to me, she's just so easy to visualize. I personally think I'm really going to enjoy this. It may not be my favorite of the trilogy, but the fact that I would still get to be in the world, I think would be all that I need. We then have Penance by Eliza Clark. This is a book that I have been waiting for. I literally did not pre-order this because I truly believed that when I went to Rome, I would find a paperback copy of this. And if you want to know, I went in several bookstores and I never once saw this book anywhere, in hardcover or in paperback. So I just decided to suck it up when I got home and get the hardcover because I am dying to read this. I have not read Boy Parts, which was Eliza Clark's debut novel, but I feel like I would really love that. A lot of times when you say you like kind of an unhinged book, that is one that is constantly recommended. So I definitely want to read that. But this book kind of has a true crime spin. I think a crime happened years ago, and this book is kind of a fictional nonfiction. about that crime. And I think that sounds really intriguing. I really just think the format of the book sounds so interesting. And I think it was Roz from Scalladandling About the Books who posted a review of this near when it came out. And that just really sold me on it. I was kind of on the fence, but I thought it sounded good. And her review really made me want to read it. So I'll link to that down below. One of the main reasons that I'm interested in Eliza Clark and that I really want to try her is just because everyone says her prose is so beautiful. So I am really looking forward to this one. This is, of course, very high on my end of year TBR. In fact, I think the rest of this stack I'm going to say are books that I would really like to read by the end of the year. And this one is very high at the top of my list because I was anticipating it for so long. So I don't just want to sit it on the TBR shelf and forget about it for a while. I really want to get to this one while I'm still really excited about it. I then have The Oxford Richard III by Shakespeare. Yes. Do I already own a copy of Richard III? Yes. But I was getting into kind of a Richard III mood the other day because I finally watched The Lost King, which is a film about Philippa Langley and basically about the rediscovery of Richard's body. But in it, Harry Lloyd portrayed Richard III. And at the beginning, Philippa Langley went to see a production of Shakespeare's Richard III, and Harry Lloyd recited one of the most famous passages from this play. And to be honest, we were robbed. Harry Lloyd, we should be getting a full Richard III adaptation with him playing the main role, honestly, because he ate it up. But from that, I just remembered how beautiful the play was. It's been so long since I reread it. And I, earlier this year, read Antony and Cleopatra in this edition, and it was the first time I had ever read an Oxford edition of Shakespeare. I was blown away by the introduction. I felt like the introduction offered so much context. It was unbelievable. And then they had appendices that also kind of listed sources that Shakespeare was using for Antony and Cleopatra. And I knew from that I wanted to get other history plays in this edition. So I decided to just bite the bullet and pick this up. This is one that I am excited to read very, very soon. I might dig into this tonight. Because speaking of Philippa Langley, she has a book coming out on Tuesday, and I think when you're seeing this, it will be out, that is on The Princes in the Tower. So I just feel myself going into a Richard III kind of mood. So I'm thinking that I'll pick this up very, very soon. I'm really excited, not even so much about the play, honestly, as I am about the notes in the introduction. I thought the introduction to Antony and Cleopatra was so insane. It was worth the price of the book just to read that introduction, in my opinion. So I certainly hope that I feel the same way here. I think that I will. I think it'll be interesting because Richard has been one of the more interesting plays to be put on over the years. And so I think there's a lot to discuss in terms of how certain actors have portrayed him. So I'm really, really excited. We also have The Guest by Emma Cline. And I picked this up basically because I just read The Girls by Emma Cline, and I cannot tell you how fantastic a reading experience that was, just how fantastic the book in general was. The Girls is kind of a retelling of the Manson murders, let's say. It's about like fictional characters, but they're clearly standing in for Charles Manson and the girls that he ran with. But one thing about it that I didn't expect, but I really loved, was just her writing style. It was so flowery and charming, and it was just really beautiful to me. I also just really liked what she had to say kind of about the female experience or about the teen girl experience. I thought that was really relatable and it was raw. And so I decided to just kind of on a whim pick up her next book, which is The Guest. I have heard mixed things about this here on BookTube this year. I think this is kind of like a backpacker story. I really know next to nothing about this, and I kind of want to keep it that way. I just hope that her writing is similar and on par to The Girls because I was blown away, frankly. The Girls almost got 5 stars out of me. So I'm really hopeful about this one. This is, again, very high on my list. I would say this and Penance are possibly the ones that I'm going to say are at the very, very top of my list. I feel confident that I'm going to get to these before the end of the year. Famous last words. I also, on a whim, picked up Letters to Milena by Franz Kafka. I know, y'all are probably laughing because you're probably saying, Jenny, I've never heard you speak on Kafka in your life. And it's true. I mean, it is true. I know next to nothing about him, but I have seen quotes from these letters at least 5 separate times on Instagram now and also on Twitter. And I felt like the universe was trying to tell me that I need to read this. The only thing by Kafka I have ever read is The Metamorphosis, when the man turns into the giant bug. We had to read that in high school, and that was horrifying to me in so many ways. And sometimes still, when I see bugs like on the ground and they're turned over on their backs, I think of The Metamorphosis and I think of how terrible that is. But that was short fiction, and for a very long time, I just in general did not like a short story. So I feel like I need to revisit him more broadly. I probably need to reread that, but I've also never read The Trial or anything else by him, but I feel like his letters are just going to be for me. Apparently this started out as a very professional relationship, and then it developed into something far more romantic as time went on. And so these letters kind of transform in quality and style across this book. So I am really excited. I'm just a nosy person, okay? I love when historical figures' letters are published because that's great for me. I am really nosy. I want to know about your personal life. So this may not be the best place to start with Kafka, but I really don't care. I'm really interested in this, and I think I'm going to at least start this before the end of the year, but I feel like this is a book like some others that I've hauled here that I'm just going to kind of dip in and out of and read here and there. Collections of letters almost always function like that to me. I don't read them straight through because they don't really read like a narrative. So I'll be interested to see how this goes. I am really, really excited because the things that I have seen, the posts that I have seen, beautiful, gorgeous, stunning. So I'm really excited. Last but not least, I got my book of the month, and that is What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez. And I picked this up for one reason and one reason only. It takes place in Egypt in the 19th century. The tagline is "The Mummy Meets Death on the Nile." I said, say no more. It's interesting to see how this book has been promoted because it certainly has had a wide campaign. I have gotten ads for this book on Instagram, on Goodreads and stuff like that, and that always makes me wary, I'll be honest. I'm always a little bit nervous when I see that because I kind of wonder about the quality of the book. Only occasionally to me does a book get an ad campaign like that and it actually warrants it. It's actually that good. So I'm a little bit nervous about this, frankly. And I actually do feel like the past few months on Book of the Month, it's just not been for me. It's been really hit and miss. So I'm apprehensive about this, but I feel like this is kind of the ideal book to be reading at this time of year. As it gets colder, I just want to read fantasy all the time. So I'm glad to have this one around. And really, Egypt in the 19th century, what more do I want? I really can't think of anything. So I am skeptical, but I'm also really looking forward to this one. So those are all of the books that I've hauled recently. This is probably going to be the last book haul that you get from me before the end of the year. And I expect that when I go into the new year, I'm going to say that I'm going on a no haul again. I feel fairly good about this year in terms of hauling. I feel like I have done very, very well. I would love to know down below what you've been hauling, if you have read any of these, but that's going to be all for me today. I hope you're all having a great week. Happy reading. Goodbye.